Over the past 2 to 3 weeks, there have been much larger numbers of deaths among British service people in Afghanistan. This is a reflection of the major operation that the British Army and the Marine Corps are undertaking in the Helmand River Valley in the southern part of Helmand province. It's causing a great deal of concern in Britain, and opinion polls tend to show that the population is rather split between whether Britain should be involved in Afghanistan or not. There is strong support for the armed forces, particularly the army, but there's a lot of questioning. I think it's a very difficult issue because the real point is, if you put more forces in, will this actually make an acceptable outcome more likely, or will it actually stimulate more opposition? What I think is likely to happen in the coming weeks is there's going to be more questioning about the basic issue of why the United Kingdom is involved in Afghanistan. There are two major reasons for this. One is that Britain has always maintained a very close relationship with the United States, and therefore sees itself as an ally of the United States. But secondly, I think the government of Tony Blair was particularly keen to work closely with the Bush administration in the aftermath of 9/11. At the time of 9/11, there were basically two possible responses. One was to see this atrocity as a huge attack on the United States by almost a militarized enemy, or at least a paramilitarized enemy, and that the only way to respond to this was with very large-scale military force, including the termination of regimes which supported terrorism. The other response would have been to see this as an appalling example of pretty brutal transnational criminality, not to give the perpetrators and their backers almost the status of an enemy to be fought in a conventional war. Some people, including myself, argue that that would have been the right path at the time. It might have taken some years. It would have involved pursuing legal means through international and national systems, and it could have taken a long time. Most people did not see that as the possible solution at the time. Now I think the mood is rather changing, and there is this questioning about why this war was engaged in the first place, both in Afghanistan and in Iraq, and whether the result of that has almost been to draw Western forces, the US forces and the British forces, almost into a trap in Afghanistan. Nobody really knows the answer to that, but I think the key issue here is that there is likely to be a more intense debate on this in Britain. And the United States, if it has maintained its current policy with its reinforcements in Afghanistan, is actually quite dependent on British support. Britain is the one country with large forces engaged in combat in Afghanistan alongside the United States. If support for the British involvement tends to falter, that will actually cause quite considerable concern in Washington and might actually influence the way the entire campaign goes. That is why I think the next 2 to 3 months really could be quite pivotal.